Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people who think the Canadian Destroyer is still a finisher, welcome back. I hope you're comfortable because today I'm doing something incredibly brave. You may call it reckless, others may call it irresponsible. Josiah, Reese, I'm looking at you. The internet, you'll call it rage bait. But today I'm here to prove, using absolutely no bias whatsoever, that Shota Umino is not only better than Kurt Angle, he's better than Bret Hart. That's right, I said it. I am planting my flag on top of Wrestling Mount Everest, looking directly at every wrestling fan over the age of 35 and saying, "Come at me." Now, before anyone starts clipping this episode for social media, let me make something perfectly clear. Is this episode satire? Am I joking? Maybe? Could be? Mostly? I don't actually think Bret Hart suddenly forgot how to wrestle because Shota Umino bought a cool leather jacket. I don't think Kurt Angle's Olympic gold medal has been revoked because Shota has better hair. Well, not officially. Today's episode is about having fun with one of wrestling's favorite pastimes, making completely irrational arguments with maximum confidence. Because wrestling fans, well, y'all don't debate. Oh no. We actually litigate. And if you tell someone you like pineapple on pizza, they'll disagree. If you tell a wrestling fan your favorite wrestler is someone they don't like, congratulations, you have just started a 5-hour civil war. Somebody's bringing up TV ratings, somebody's bringing up ticket sales, someone else has spreadsheets to prove their point. Dave Meltzer's star ratings are somehow entered into the evidence, and before long, someone has typed, "actually," and whenever a wrestling fan starts a sentence with "actually," just prepare yourself. Your afternoon is gone. So today, I'm going to become that girl. Only I'm turning the dial, all the way to 100. Today, every statistic supports Shota Umino. Every accomplishment favors Shota Umino. Every category somehow ends with point for Shota. And if that sounds unfair, exactly, that's the joke. So, let's begin with appearances, because wrestling is all about presentation. The first thing you noticed about someone is how they carry themselves. Bret Hart, pink sunglasses, legendary, iconic. Children everywhere wanted those glasses. Kurt Angle, bald head, American flag singlet, intensity. He looked like a man who would suplex your entire family before breakfast. Shota, leather jacket, confident walk, hair flowing in the breeze. And he doesn't walk to the ring, he arrives like the opening scene of an action movie where the hero already knows the sequel has been greenlighted. You hear his music and you immediately think, this guy definitely has a slow motion entrance. Meanwhile, Kurt Angle's entrance music literally starts with people chanting, "You suck." Imagine being one of the greatest wrestlers to ever live, and your entrance begins with 20,000 people roasting you. That's commitment. Shota's entrance, nobody chants "you suck," mostly because they're too busy wondering if he's about to challenge someone or save Tokyo from a monster attack. 1 point goes to Shota. Let's discuss aura, because modern wrestling fans love that word, aura. Nobody defines it, everyone claims to recognize it. It's wrestling's version of art appreciation. I don't know why it's great. It feels great. Kurt Angle had aura. Bret Hart had aura. Shota, he has cinematic aura. And you know what I mean. He stands there, looks into the distance. Wind somehow appears indoors. The camera zooms in. Suddenly, everyone online says, "Cinema!" Nothing happened. he literally stood still. But somehow it looked incredible. If Bret Hart stood still, people would say, excellent ring psychology. If Kurt Angle stood still, people would ask if he'd forgotten what move come next. And when Shota stands still, the internet uploads orchestra music clips. Guess what? Another point to Shota. Alright, let's compare accomplishments. Angle won an Olympic gold medal. Pretty impressive. Most impressive, as Darth Vader would say. Not many people have done that. Bret Hart became multi-time world champion. Main event in WrestleMania. Influenced generations. Respect. Nothing but respect. But here's where my totally objective scientific method comes in. Question. Have either of them ever looked like the protagonist of an anime immediately before a big match? No. Shota? Every time. Advantage. Shota. You may think this category is unfair. That's because you're trapped by traditional metrics. Wins, titles, technical wrestling. Those are old school numbers. We're using modern analytics. Hair flow percentage, jack efficiency, main character energy. How dramatic if someone removes a coat before a match? These are the metrics of tomorrow. Harvard isn't teaching this yet, but I will give them time. People always tell me, you can't compare wrestlers from different eras. Really? Watch me. Bret Hart wrestled in the New Generation era. Kurt Angle dominated in the Ruthless Aggression era. Shota wrestles in today's era, which means he has one enormous advantage over both men. Higher video quality. That's right. You can literally see his pores in 4K. Try getting that in 1994. Checkmate. Do you know how much easier it is to look cool in high def? Actually, I don't want you to answer that. Some people somehow will look worse. Thankfully, not our guy Shota. Now, I know there's someone listening right now probably wearing a Hitman t-shirt. Reese, I'm looking at you, holding a cup of coffee, typing an email, and probably saying, Catherine, this is the worst wrestling analysis I ever heard. To which I say, thank you. That means the bit is working. Because if you believe I genuinely think jacket quality outweighs Olympic achievement, I think we have much bigger problems. The fun of wrestling has always been outrageous opinions. Today, I'm simply embracing the chaos. And after this short break, I'm going to explain why Kurt Angle's greatest weakness wasn't his broken neck. It was the fact that he never once looked like the lead character in an epic Japanese sports drama. So, ladies and gentlemen, please don't go anywhere as my evidence somehow gets less reasonable. Alrighty, since you've had that little time to contemplate what I said in the first segment, segment 2, we're going to make the case against one Kurt Angle. So, welcome back. Today's mission is simple. I am attempting to prove that Shota Umino is greater than Kurt Angle. Not because reality supports it, but because confidence is 90% of winning a wrestling argument on the internet. Have you ever noticed that? Nobody online ever says, I could be wrong. Nope, 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 nope. It's always, if you don't agree with me, you've clearly never watched wrestling. Really? I've watched wrestling since VHS tapes were considered cutting edge technology. I've watched enough wrestling to remember when every referee was apparently legally blind. I've watched enough wrestling to know that a surprise roll up has ended approximately 4 million matches. So, yes, I've watched wrestling. Now, let's discuss Kurt Angle. First off, respect where respect is due. Angle is one of the greatest professional wrestlers ever to lace up a pair of boots. Olympic gold medalist, world champion, phenomenal amateur credentials, one of the smoothest workers to ever step inside of a ring. His timing, perfect, intensity, it's second to none, which happened to be my high school motto. His comedy, wildly underrated. This is the same man who spent years making an audience laugh while simultaneously looking like he could legitimately suplex everyone in that building. Now, that's a rare skill. But today, unfortunately, facts are taking the day off because today's metric is main character energy. So let's compare. Kurt Angle walks to the ring, head down, focused, serious, looks like a man who has memorized every wrestling hold ever invented. Well, Shota walks like the soundtrack budget just doubled. You know, those movie scenes where the hero walks away from an explosion without looking back. Well, that's our man Shota. The pyro hasn't even started yet, and somehow he's already walking away from it. Point goes to Shota. Now, let's talk entrances. Kurt Angle's music begins with You Suck. Imagine accomplishing literally everything in sports, winning a gold medal, becoming one of wrestling's greatest performers, headlining major events around the world, and your reward 20,000 people immediately insulting you. That has to mess with your confidence, even if it's affectionate. Imagine introducing yourself at work. Good morning, everyone. You suck. Not exactly great for morale. Meanwhile, Shota's entrance music hits. People cheer, people clap, people nod knowingly. Someone in the crowd whispers, Cinema! Nobody knows why, they just feel it. Yet again, point goes to Shota. Now, let's discuss signature moves. Kurt Angle had the Angle Slam, excellent move. The Ankle Lock, it's legendary. German suplexes, beautiful. Well, Shota, he possesses something even more devastating potential. Ladies and gentlemen, potential is wrestling's most overpowered finishing move. Potential has carried careers for decades. Potential has won awards. Potential has headlined forums. Potential has caused fans to say, just wait until next year, every year, for 10 years. Potential, it's undefeated. So technically, since Shota still has limitless potential, he has already defeated mathematics. Another point for Shota. Let's move on to intensity. Angle looked angry, always. Even smiling, he somehow looked angry. Shota looks like he's carrying the emotional weight of an entire anime season. Every facial expression says, I must honor my destiny. Sometimes I don't even know what his destiny is, but I believe him. You ever notice that? Certain wrestlers don't even have to talk, they just stare dramatically. And suddenly, everyone online starts writing essays about symbolism. If Kurt stared into the distance, commentators would ask, I wonder what strategy he's thinking about. If Shota stares into the distance, fans immediately assume he's contemplating life, friendship, betrayal, and the future of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Another point for Shota. Let's discuss gear. Kurt Angle singlet, classic, iconic, practical. Shota, leather jacket. Need I say more? Actually, yes, I do. Because, yeah, this is a podcast. Leather jackets immediately increase charisma by at least 25%. This has been proven by absolutely no scientific institution whatsoever. James Dean, The Terminator, Indiana Jones, every cool biker movie history, leather jacket. Coincidence? I think not. Meanwhile, Angle showed up dressed like he was ready for Olympic trials. Respectable, functional, even efficient. But where's the drama? Where's the flair? Where's the unnecessary coat removal before a match? Exactly. Point Shota. Now, here's where things may get a little ridiculous. Let's compare championships. Kurt Angle, well, he won world titles, intercontinental titles, European titles, tag team championships, King of the Ring, practically everything. Shota hasn't matched that resume yet. But here's the important word yet. Because wrestling fans love yet, he hasn't become world champion yet. He hasn't had his defining feud yet. He hasn't reached his peak yet. Ladies and gentlemen, yet. It is the most optimistic word in wrestling. It's the word that fuels fantasy booking. It's the word that keeps us watching. It's why every January someone says, this is finally Cesaro's year. Oops, wrong decade. Sorry. You know, sometimes old habits are hard to break. And because Shota still has infinite yet points, our completely fake scoring system awards him another victory. Point Shota. Now, I can hear my Kurt Angle fans shouting, but Kurt won an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck. Yes, he absolutely did. Incredible accomplishment. Historic accomplishment. One of the greatest feats in sports history. Counter argument. Has Kurt ever looked like he was about to star in a prestigious Japanese drama while walking through backstage lighting? Ladies and gentlemen, the jury has spoken. Case closed. No further questions. And after this short little break, I will tackle the impossible. The man many consider the greatest technical wrestler who ever lived, the excellence of execution himself, Bret Hart. Can Shota possibly overcome pink sunglasses, legendary psychology, and 30 years of wrestling excellence? According to my complete unbiased research, abso-freaking-lutely, and the evidence is somehow even sillier. All right, segment 3, the case against Bret Hart, according to the internet's most unhinged fan. Now we have arrived at the moment that will probably get me permanently banned from at least 3 wrestling Facebook groups, if I were in them. We've somehow survived comparing Shota to Kurt Angle, but now we are stepping into sacred territory because today I'm going to discuss Bret Hart. Or, as wrestling fans know him, the guy you accidentally criticize once and suddenly receive a 14-part lecture on ring psychology. Look, before I continue, let me say this. Bret Hart is one of the greatest professional wrestlers who has ever lived. His storytelling is elite, his psychology legendary, his consistency almost unmatched. He made everything look believable. He convinced millions of people that every punch mattered, every hold had a purpose, and every near fall, it meant something. In other words, he was the exact opposite of my Twitter timeline. Now, having said all that, allow me to become the world's most irrational wrestling fan. Because today I have a mission, and today I'm going to prove that Shota Umino is better than Bret Hart using logic so flawed that it belongs in a congressional hearing. So, let's begin. Exhibit A, entrance jackets. Now, Bret Hart had one of wrestling's most iconic looks, pink and black, leather jacket, reflective sunglasses. Absolutely unforgettable. But Shota has a leather jacket and cinematic lighting. Ladies and gentlemen, technology has advanced. It's not Bret Hart's fault. If Bret had modern arena lighting in 1993, half the audience they would have fainted. Imagine the slow motion entrance, the dramatic camera angles, the orchestra music. Instead, Bret had to settle for cameras that occasionally looked like they were filmed through someone's kitchen window. Advantage, modern production value, which, according to my completely unfabricated scoring system, means point Shota. All right, Exhibit A, main character syndrome. Every wrestling generation has one wrestler who feels like the hero of an epic story. Well, sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes the fans decide it. With Shota, there's this feeling that every entrance is the beginning of chapter 37 in an anime where the protagonist finally unlocks a new ability. You almost expect someone to narrate. As the rain fell over Tokyo, Shota knew today would change everything. Meanwhile, Bret Hart's narration would have been, I'm going to wrestle an excellent technical match. And honestly, he did. Every single time. But from a purely fictional anime protagonist standpoint, Shota wins again. Guess what? This category does not exist. But that never stopped wrestling fans before. Exhibit C, the internet hyperbole. Have you ever noticed that every generation believes they're watching the greatest wrestler who ever lived? Seriously, I've seen fans call someone the GOAT after one really good pay per view match. One match. One. ONE. The internet has no patience. Someone debuts, future Hall of Famer. They lose twice. Career is over. They win a tournament. Best wrestler alive. They miss one moonsault. They're washed. Wrestling fans don't own a thermostat. Everything is either freezing or on a fire. There's no middle ground. So I'm embracing that energy and I'm pretending Shota is the final evolution of professional wrestling. Tomorrow, someone else will say another wrestler has surpassed everyone. Next week, someone will declare a rookie with 6 televised matches to be better than Ric Flair. It's the circle of wrestling life. Okay, the completely fake Hall of Fame categories. Ladies and gentlemen, I have assembled a panel of experts, and by experts, I mean me. And today's winners are Best Hair in a Dramatic Entrance, Bret Hart, excellent. Shota, excellent plus win machine, winner, Shota. Best looking while walking slowly, Bret, very good. Shota, looks like he's about to confront the final boss. Winner, you guessed it, Shota. Most likely to inspire a 20-minute YouTube video titled The Symbolism of Bret Hart, probably. Shota, definitely. Again, winner, Shota. Most likely to have fans write 3,000-word essays about a jacket. Brent, maybe. Shota, oh, without question. The winner, the jacket. Wrestling fans, we love doing this. So here's the truth. Part of the fun of wrestling is arguing impossible questions. Who's the greatest technical wrestler? Who's the greatest promo? Who's on the Mount Rushmore? Who carried a company? Who drew the most money? Who had the best entrance music? These debates never end, and honestly, I hope they never do, because that's part of what being a wrestling fan is about. You have conversations, you have disagreements, you have friendly trash talking, the endless fantasy booking. It's why two people can watch the exact same match. One will give it 5 stars, another will say it's mid, and somehow they're both convinced they're objectively correct. So, if you're listening today and yelling at your speakers, congratulations! You're participating exactly the way this episode intended. So, I have compared Shota to Kurt Angle. I have compared Shota to Bret Hart. So now, it's time to reveal the most prestigious ranking system in wrestling history. It is not the PWI 500, not championship reigns, nor is it star ratings. Oh, no, 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 no. I am ready to unveil the totally scientific Wrestling Greatness Index. It measures everything that truly matters: entrance swagger, jacket efficiency, hair momentum, camera awareness, anime energy, and a statistic I invented this morning called looking cool while thinking about absolutely nothing. Trust me, the numbers, they're impeccable, mostly because I made them up. So, don't go anywhere, and we'll be back with the finishing touches. Alrighty. Our fourth segment, the totally scientific Wrestling Greatness Index, created by yours truly, me. So, you have been brave enough to listen so far to see how much crazier I can get. Well, I hate to tell you, it gets worse. So, welcome back to the only wrestling podcast brave enough to submit its research to absolutely no academic journal whatsoever. We've researched the portion of today's show where the facts become optional. Charts, mandatory, maybe? We'll see. Because if there's one thing wrestling fans love, statistics! No, not real statistics. Selective statistics. You know, the kind that magically support whatever argument you're already trying to make. Have you ever noticed that if your favorite wrestler wins, championships matter? And when they lose, oh, championships, they're just props. And your favorite wrestler gets 5 stars, Dave Meltzer is brilliant. If someone else gets 5 stars, oh, 5 stars? They don't matter. It's still amazing. Wrestling fans don't move the goalpost. They put them goalposts on wheels and kick them bitches down the field. So, I'm going to reveal my groundbreaking formula that has been peer reviewed by absolutely nobody and has been tested extensively during my lunch today. And after 6 minutes of careful research, I can confidently reveal my categories. First, entrance swagger. Let's begin. Kurt Angle walks with confidence, purpose, intensity. 8 out of 10. Bret Hart. He's cool, calm, collected. 9 out of 10. Which I think is pretty high. Shota Umino walks like the camera owes him money. 10 out of 10. Actually, I'm going to give him an 11 because confidence should always break the scale. Category 2, hair physics. Now, this is an important category. Hair is an underrated part of professional wrestling. Think about it. Hair sells moves. Hair sells emotion. Hair sells slow motion entrances. When someone dramatically turns their head, the hair has to cooperate. Otherwise, that moment is gone. Bret Hart had excellent hair. It was consistent, reliable, even Hall of Fame hair. Kurt Angle, well, let's just say Mother Nature booked him into a retirement angle, which is nothing wrong with that. Bald wrestlers have dominated the business. Stone Cold, Goldberg, The Rock. But unfortunately, today's category is literally hair, which means Shota wins by default. Sorry, Kurt. The spreadsheet, it doesn't lie. Category 3, looking cool while standing completely still. This is where modern wrestling has changed. Back in the day, you had to cut a promo. Now, sometimes all you have to do is stare dramatically. Somebody adds orchestral music online, millions of views. If Bret Hart stood still, you'd think, he's planning the match. If Kurt Angle stood still, you'd think, he's about to suplex someone. If Shota stands still, half the internet starts discussing symbolism. What does it mean? It's the stare about destiny, friendship, legacy. Oh no, he's waiting for the camera cue. But don't let facts ruin a good theory. Point, Shota. Category 4, jacket removal. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a skill. Do not laugh. Not everyone can remove a jacket dramatically. Some people look like they're fighting with a grocery bag. Others, they make it look effortless. Shota, smooth and confident, like he practiced in front of a mirror. Bret, iconic, efficient. Kurt, homeboy don't even bring a jacket. Rookie mistake. Category 5, the internet gift potential. Every wrestler eventually becomes a reaction gift. Question is, how many? Shota has those dramatic looks, the thoughtful stare, the determined nod, the slow entrance. Perfect reaction material. Bret Hart gave us some fantastic expressions too, especially when he looked at referees if they had personally ruined civilization. Kurt Angle, half of his involved someone getting launched into orbit. Different energy, all equally entertaining, but today's category favors Shota. All right, according to my research department, we have breaking news. And by research department, I mean the notebook sitting next to this microphone. I've discovered something shocking. Every wrestling fan has exactly one completely irrational opinion. Think about yours. Maybe you think a certain wrestler should have been world champion. Maybe you believe one match is the greatest ever. Maybe you've convinced an entrance theme automatically adds 2 stars to every performance. We're all guilty. And honestly, that's part of the fun. Professional wrestling isn't just watched, it's argued. Every show creates new debates. Every pay-per-view creates new rankings. Every title change creates 10 podcasts, 20 YouTube videos, 30 Reddit threads, and one guy who somehow writes a 12-page essay before breakfast. I am not that guy. We are passionate people, sometimes too passionate. Actually, definitely too passionate. All right, The Mount Rushmore problem. Here's another thing wrestling fans love: making Mount Rushmores. Everyone has one. Nobody agrees. Some say Bret belongs, others say Flair, some say Angle, some say Shawn. Then someone inevitably says, "What about my favorite wrestler?" And suddenly we're all rearranging imaginary mountains. All right, so today's episode simply takes that idea to its most ridiculous conclusion. Instead of asking who belongs on Mount Rushmore, I am asking, what if Shota Umino built a brand new mountain? See, that's not analysis. That is commitment to the bit. So, my final scientific results after adding up every category, subtracting, absolutely nothing, and carrying that one, ignoring basic mathematics, and applying what experts refer to as maximum podcast bias. Our final scores are Bret Hart legend, Kurt Angle legend, Shota Umino, winner of today's completely fictional championship. Congratulations! Your trophy is made entirely of internet arguments, and it weighs approximately 1,000 angry comments. So, I'm going to open up. I'm going to open up an imaginary listener mailbag, and I'll answer questions that absolutely nobody sent, and will respond to fictional angry emails. And I will hear from the mythical Bret Hart fan who has been waiting patiently to tell me why this episode is nonsense. Reese, I'm looking at you, honey. Spoiler alert, they're absolutely right. And I cannot wait to hear from them. So, give me 1 second to dig into that mailbag, and I'll be right back. Okay, you made it to the final segment of today's completely unbiased, absolutely objective, and legally questionable wrestling analysis, where we've compared Shota Umino to Kurt Angle, we've compared him to Bret Hart. I created a fake scientific formula. I've invented statistics. I've somehow determined that jacket removal is a measurable wrestling skill. So, in other words, we have officially become every wrestling podcast on the internet. Now, it is time for everyone's favorite segment, the imaginary mailbag. That's right, only for this episode. These emails are 100% fictional, mostly because if I had to read the real ones before recording, I may have need a lawyer. All right. Dear host, I've been a Bret Hart fan since 1987. I've listened to your entire episode, and I'd like to know what medication you're currently taking. Sincerely, a concerned Canadian. That's an excellent question. The answer is coffee, far too much coffee, and the confidence that only comes from making arguments that cannot possibly survive peer review. Our second email. Dear host, Kurt Angle won an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck. What has Shota Umino done that even remotely compared? Well, has Kurt Angle ever caused thousands of wrestling fans to spend 3 hours debating whether a leather jacket symbolizes the future of New Japan? No. Checkmate. Again, this is not a real statistic, so please do not quote me. All right, our final email. Dear host, I'm a Shota Umino fan, and even I think you have gone too far. Finally, someone reasonable. Look, that's kind of the point. Every wrestling fan has taken an argument way too far at some point. We've all done it. You've watched one incredible match and immediately declared it was the greatest match in wrestling history. Then 6 months later, you watch another one. Suddenly, the previous greatest match ever? It's falling to fifth place. We all suffer from wrestling recency bias. It's okay. There are support groups. They're called wrestling forums. All right. I'm going to discuss the wrestling fan cycle before we get out of here. And here's how it works. A wrestler debuts. This person is going to change wrestling forever. 3 months later, they've been buried. 3 months after that, they're underrated. 3 months later, they're overrated. 1 year later, they finally figured it out. Then, 5 years pass, someone discovers an old match. I always knew they were great. Ladies and gentlemen, the wrestling fan cycle. It is undefeated. So now, putting all jokes aside for a minute, because behind all the sarcasm, there's actually something I love about professional wrestling. It's subjective. There isn't one correct answer. Ask 100 fans to rank the greatest wrestler ever. You will probably get 90 different lists. Some value technical wrestling. Some love larger-than-life charisma. Some judge based on championships. Others care about storytelling. Others simply pick the wrestler who made them fall in love with wrestling in the first place. And none of these answers are wrong. That's what makes this hobby fun. It's why fans can spend hours debating Bret Hart versus Shawn, Flair versus Hulk, and Kurt versus Bryan Danielson, or whether Shota Umino could someday become one of the defining stars of his generations. Those conversations keep wrestling alive. So, after today's complete ridiculous investigation, my official results are Bret Hart, one of the greatest technical wrestlers to ever step inside of a ring, master storyteller, genuine legend, Kurt Angle, an Olympic gold medalist, one of the most naturally gifted performers wrestling ever seen, equally brilliant at comedy and serious competition, another genuine legend, Shota Umino, a talented modern wrestler with tremendous upside, growing experience, and the opportunity to build a legacy all his own. Maybe one day fans will mention him alongside names like Bret Hart and Kurt Angle without it being a joke. That's something worth watching. At the end of the day, this episode was never really about proving Shota Umino is better than Bret Hart or Kurt Angle, because honestly, that's impossible to prove. Different eras, different styles, different careers. Instead, it was about celebrating one of my favorite parts of being a wrestling fan: the ridiculous debates, the impossible comparisons, the over-the-top confidence, the fantasy booking, the endless hot takes, and yes, the occasional completely made-up statistic about jacket efficiency. Because wrestling has always been larger than life, so why shouldn't the conversations be larger than life too? Well, you've made it this far. I want to thank you for listening. If you're a Bret Hart fan, I hope you're smiling. If you're a Kurt Angle fan, please don't put me in an ankle lock. And if you're a Shota Umino fan, congratulations for one glorious podcast episode. Your guy was officially declared the greatest wrestler in recorded history by an organization that exists only inside this microphone. And if you're wondering whether I'll defend another outrageous wrestling opinion next week, the answer is maybe, possibly, absolutely. So, until next time, keep watching wrestling, keep having fun, keep debating respectfully, and remember, every wrestling fan thinks they're right, including me. especially when I am completely wrong. So remember to like and subscribe, share with your friends. You can listen wherever you get your podcast. Also, for my serious wrestling takes, please go subscribe to the Weekly Steel Chair, where you can hear me and my partner Nikki on Lipsticks and Lariats every Sunday, which we will be debating some great topics this coming Sunday. Until then, I will see y'all next time with my fourth and final installment on Shota Umino and why he should win the G1 Climax this year. Thanks for listening.